Already.
Hello, Alex. Hello, Lauren. How are you?
Hi, doing well, thank you.
All right, are we ready to get rolling? All right, well, welcome everybody. There's a few folks joining here. We'll admit them as we go, but I'm Jason Eberly. I'm a marketing events coordinator here with Transeo.
Pardon me.
Welcome to today's webinar. We're glad you're here and excited to
Hello.
hear you today. We have an amazing panel lined up with a lot of experience and insight in scaling work-based learning programs. Just a couple of housekeeping notes before we get rolling here. This is the third in a four-part webinar series produced by Transeo and eDynamic Learning, focused on building a robust work-based learning program. The fourth webinar is scheduled for March 22nd. And if you would like to join, I will put the link in the chat here. Speaking of the chat, feel free to drop questions in the chat today. We'll try to respond to as many as we can. Today's session will also be recorded, and we will send out a link here in a few days with the video, along with shared resources. Our panel today has some excellent shared resources that we can share with you as well. So stay tuned for all of those. And with that, I would like to introduce our host today. Audrey Cruz has worked for 10 years at the intersection of equity, education, and workforce development in Washington, D.C. Last 9 years with consulting with government agencies, school districts, nonprofits, and for-profits to design and optimize processes and move people through large-scale change. And she currently serves as the Director of Sales, Operations, and Enablement with Transeo. Welcome, Audrey. Thank you for hosting today.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We are about to have a phenomenal conversation with three incredible work-based learning experts that are here to share tips, tools, tactics, strategies, toolkits, all sorts of things to help you to increase the quality of your work-based learning programs and scale those programs
I just want to let you
to
know,
serve more students, more educators, and help to really ensure that we are increasing that effective pipeline from K through 12 to career, employment, and economic mobility. So as I said, we have three excellent panelists. I'm going to introduce them for us, and then we'll get started with our questions. So a couple things just to frame this. So first and foremost, if you could please mute yourself, that would be amazing. We will have different opportunities through the course of today for some Q&A, and I'll let you know when those are coming up. And then at that point, you can unmute yourself and we can have conversations about those questions. Also, as Jason mentioned, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. And if for any reason we're not able to get to your amazing questions during the course of our session today, we will be following up with more information. You can then reach out to us so that we can provide that additional insight. So to get us started, I'm going to introduce our panelists. First up is Valerie Garcia. Valerie is a work-based learning and partner development professional from Chicago. She currently serves as a work-based learning specialist for Chicago Public Schools, where she supports 22 high schools and 55 teachers across the second largest district in the country. Welcome, Valerie. Next up, we have Kara Pontius. Kara is a jobs implementer at Transeo, where she speaks at work-based learning conferences across the country. Prior to joining Transeo, Kara was a career readiness coordinator at Eastland Fairfield Career and Technical Schools in Grovesport, Ohio, where she provided career exploration and planning services to students K through 12 in 6 of Eastland Fairfield's associate districts. Welcome, Kara.
Thank you.
And our third panelist, Haley Porter. Haley is a hospitality educator at Northside High School in Houston. She's also an adjunct professor at Houston Community College, a Texas Policy Fellow at Teacher Plus. Prior to joining Northside High, Haley was also the Dean of Instruction at Discovery Middle School, and before that was a hospitality, tourism, and culinary arts teacher. Welcome, Haley, Kara, and Valerie. I'm so excited for a conversation we're about to have. So for our audience members, as you now see, Jason has spotlighted our panelists for us. So the intent of today's session is to be like a panel discussion. This will not be presentation focused. You'll be here having the opportunity to get insights from experts in a more organic conversation. So the first question that I have for our panelists to get us started is that I'm hoping you can tell us a little bit more about what brought you to work-based learning and how you define work-based learning. Kara, would you mind kicking us off?
Yeah, so I'm going to define it first. So work-based learning to me is the proactive enablement to get students involved in the workforce. It's connecting students to real life careers. It is not just workforce development. It is also career exploration for students. So we're getting students, in high school for free. Sometimes they're getting paid. They're not only getting workforce skills, those technical skills they're enhancing, but they're getting soft skills that are, extremely needed, not just for, career success, but just personal success when they're looking for their futures, and how to be independent and grow on their own outside of the four walls of high school and without those mentors right there next to them. I was kind of brought into work-based learning in a very odd way. I actually came from recruitment. I worked with 9th graders, 10th graders, all the way down into the elementary schools for career exploration opportunities, and then trying to get them to look at some opportunities that the career centers had in Central Ohio, to look for, expanding career exploration for them, get them, excited about career development, things like that. And I did that for like 4 or 5 years, and my assistant superintendent kind of pulled me over to the side when Ohio really ramped up work-based learning requirements in the state of Ohio and just said, we need somebody to lead this. We think you'll be good at it. And so I had a crash course in Ohio work-based learning CTE requirements over the course of like 2 months, and took it and kind of ran with it. And so here I am.
Thank you so much, Kara. I'm going to warn you all, it's saying my internet is unstable. So if I'm my other currently operating program, so I apologize in advance. I'm going to try to fix that in between. Valerie, could you give us a little bit of insight into what brought you to work-based learning, and how you define that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my work-based learning journey started about 18 years ago when I was working for an organization called Junior Achievement. I was with Junior Achievement of Chicago for 15 years as senior director of high school programming. And that really, JA really sparked my love of work-based learning and connecting students to the world of work. And that's really essentially how I define work-based learning, as connecting what students are currently learning in their classrooms to the world of work through guest speaking opportunities, internships, job shadowing. And so doing that through career exploration, awareness, and development opportunities.
Excellent. So Valerie and Kara, I'm both hearing kind of the expansion of work-based learning from just workforce development to career exploration to all sorts of different kind of approaches to how we can think about that. So I really appreciate the expansion beyond maybe some of our more kind of narrowly focused ideas around this. And then I'm very excited about how we're going to continue kind of pulling that out through the course of today's webinar. Haley, can you tell us a little bit more about what brought you to work-based learning and how you define it?
So my journey into work-based learning, I guarantee you, is I'm going to pull a page from Kara's book. Like I was kind of, it was thrust upon me. The teacher that was before me retired, and because I do have a hospitality background, I was approached and by one of the dean of instructions back 12 years ago, and said, well, could you take over the practicum hospitality course? And I said, sure. I mean, of course, my strong suit is the culinary part, but they were like, well, no, hotels. I said, okay, well, hospitality is hospitality. So I think I can do this. And so I think what really sparked my desire to kind of help build a program where I am is the opportunities that we provide the students through the internships and the work-based learning experiences. So our students are literally working in 5-star, 4-star luxury hotels in the city of Houston, and they're given the opportunity of a lifetime, being exposed to different people from cultures, walks of life, Fortune 500 company owners and so forth. So for me, the authenticity of the education comes into play when they're actually able to practice what they're being taught. It's one thing to be in front of in class, and you have your textbook knowledge and you're answering questions from whatever it may be, but then to be able to see it in action and to be a part of the experience is the beauty behind work-based learning. So my goal and my desire is to see that come into more fruition, to be more partnerships and so forth. So for me, my background in hospitality helped bridge the gap and bridge me into this new walk of life I'm in. But to see what the students take from the course through what they're learning is what actually pushes me further to I wouldn't say reinvent, but probably expand our horizons in work-based learning.
That's great, Haley. I want to push a little bit further on this question, and I'll start with you, but we'll kind of go through the whole panel. So you're talking about the authentic experience, right? Being able to really take the conceptual, what we're learning in the classroom, and have practical application, the practice of what that really looks like. So could you tell us a little bit more about what you think it means for a student to truly be career ready today?
Well, our district and of course our school, we really truly promote a successful life outside of high school. So when students are graduating, when the students graduate, we want them to be able to know that they have options upon graduation. Some students, honestly, college may not be the life for them, and that's okay. I wish someone told me that when I was in high school, but we were told, you're going to school. But for the students that we have now, they need to know their options are available. So for them to be career ready, we're talking about we've built up their interpersonal skills, customer service, appreciation, professionalism. We're looking at global authenticity here. So we're looking at students being able to take what they've learned and actually start practicing that in the working field. So credentialing circuits such as certifications, apprenticeships and things like that, we're actually putting them in the stead of having work experience. So when they're graduating, and when they do graduate, they can either take the option of furthering their education or being able to take what they've learned to actually start a career of their own.
I love that. I love that perspective of career readiness and thinking beyond college for all. I think everybody here is of that group, that we can recognize that college for all is an antiquated approach, and that there are many varying kind of and necessary components of becoming career ready. Valerie, what about you? What do you think it means for a student to be career ready today?
Yeah, I think career readiness for me is really the process of preparing students of any age, whether that's middle school or high school, with the essential skills, tools, and resources they need to find, to acquire, to maintain, and to grow within a job or an industry. So that's really how I defined career readiness, is providing and exposing students to all of those resources and tools they need to find and keep a job.
finding, keeping, maintaining. I like all of the words you're saying, right? It's not just about access. It's not just about options. It's about actually creating the context for the sustainable work, for people being able to have that ongoing career and career opportunities.
That's absolutely right.
Kara, what are your thoughts on this? What does it mean to be career ready today?
So I love career ready. I think every student, when they leave high school, when they're equipped with that diploma, they should be career ready, whatever that means for them. But aside from that, I think I like life readiness a little bit better. And here's why. Even though we're talking about work-based learning, I think work-based learning goes for every individual student, no matter what level they're at, no matter what their future holds, no matter which next step they're looking at. So we're preparing them for the next step. Work-based learning does that for students, and it prepares them for life. So work-based learning gets students life ready. That's what we ultimately want students to have, right? So we want to empower them, I think, to be career ready, to be ready for the world outside of high school. I think we want to empower and equip students with the knowledge of what careers are outside of the book of the doctor, the teacher, the nurse. They need to know all the way down into the little details, the finer stitches of life, who makes things happen. We know the big top people, but where does the funnel lie? And I think to be career ready, students need to know the variety of careers that are out there, things that I didn't know as a student, things that I didn't know as a college student. So I think the variety there, equipping students with that career variety knowledge is one thing. But outside of that, I think it's also enabling students to both, find and refine their soft skills. Preparing students for life, or a career is not just about the technical skill that they may have or may want to acquire, but they need to know how to problem solve. They need to know how to work both independently and with a team. They need to know how to have a voice and how to control the voice, right? So when can you advocate for yourself? How do you advocate for yourself? Or when do you pull yourself in to be that team player, to make sure that your company, whether it's yours or someone else's, is going to strive and you and your team will be the best that you can be. So I think it kind of goes to say that what we want to do for students when they're looking at graduation is prepare them for the little things in life that we may not have gotten because we heard the big message. We didn't hear the finer details.
Haley, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, it's amazing that Kara was saying about making them life ready. I'm a hospitality teacher, but when I ask my students, what do you want, what career you want to study? I have doctors, I have lawyers, I have chemists, I have astrologers, I have all of these different desires of our students in my senior class, mind you, that when they leave high school, when they leave this class, I want to be able to give them transferable skills. And these are skills, just like what Kara was saying, these are skills for life. Being able to be critical thinkers, how to be able to take autonomy for the decisions that they make, that it's not only needed in a hospitality person, but also someone that is working in a team for NASA. You just never know. But I love the idea of the students being life ready, not only career ready, but life ready, because after they leave high school, they are considered adults. And so being put in positions where they have to think for themselves, we want to be able to embed that in them. And even what Valerie was saying, in the elementary, middle school years, so that when they are developing these skills in high school, when they graduate, credentialed or not credentialed, they are career and life ready. So I just wanted to kind of bring that out too, because what Kara said just sparked something.
Absolutely. So taking this perspective of both career and life ready, why prioritize work-based learning experience for students? And then I'm going to push a little bit into our topic for today, which is why prioritize scaling work-based learning experiences for students? Kara, could you kick us off on this question?
Sure. So I think first and foremost, it's about empowering students, and it's about empowering every student. So why should you scale your work-based learning program, whether you're CTE, whether you're a comprehensive high school, whether you're private school? We need to empower our students with skills and experience. So I saw a thing on LinkedIn a couple of months back that said, I need a job, but I have no experience. I need a job, but I have no experience. And so it's a continuum, right? And it's an endless cycle. Any student, no matter if you went through 2 years, 4 years, 8 years of college, or you went through just, you got your diploma and you're out for graduation, you're looking for a job. When you get down to the qualifications and requirements, every one of us has seen it and every one of us has done it, right? We need X amount of years of experience. Well, how in the world can I get experience if I've been studying, or if I've been pushed to read a textbook, or if I've been pushed to sit in a class and not go out and get that experience? So it's empowering students to learn the skills and to gain the experience, so that then when they sit down at an interview, or they want to go and expand their career in their field of interest, they can say with confidence that I have the experience. I might not have this level of experience, but I have some type of experience. And so that experience also comes with expansion of student knowledge. So you're expanding their knowledge of technical skills. You're expanding their knowledge of what they like, what they don't like. You are expanding their knowledge to say, I know who I like to work for. I know who I don't like to work for. So when they're looking for a culture or an industry, they know exactly what fits their needs, their desires, what makes them tick. We don't want to work for somebody we don't want to work for, but we don't know that if we've never been out there. And so when you talk about work-based learning, I think it not only promotes career exploration, but it just empowers that student with knowledge to know what they like and what they don't like.
I also want to pick up on something you said there about the confidence building as well. And I think, for so many of us, we can recognize that if you haven't done something, right, there can be this fear and anxiety around that. But the more we practice, the more we try it, the more our confidence builds. And for our teenagers and young people in particular, we know how challenging it is in today's day and age with social media and all of these things with confidence building. And so this provides a really beautiful opportunity for that, to help mitigate some of the imposter syndrome that's just so pervasive for so many people, and give them that kind of platform for what comes next. Haley, what are your thoughts on this? Tell us a little bit more about why you think it's really important for us to be prioritizing scaling work-based learning experiences for students.
Well, I was fortunate to go to the National Education Summit back in November, and it was one of the presenters mentioned employability skills, and he presented data, and in the data it showed the courses of calculus, trigonometry, all of these different core classes, and it showed the longitudinal data of how much of that information is going to be needed or used in the career choices of what we are dealing with now. And it was mind-blowing. It was because we have students that are in geometry, we have them in trigonometry, and none of those are going to provide them the skills they need for the career choices that they are going for. And so when we think about scaling, we're thinking about adding skill upon knowledge upon skill upon knowledge. And it's about building the student throughout their careers, their school careers, so that when they are, like what Kara was saying, when they are going for an interview, they have something to present to the table and say, yes, I have this experience. Or if I don't have the necessary experience you're looking for, I can tell you the training that I have had that could possibly be used in conjunction with what you're looking for. And so when we are building on the skills and when we're building on the expertise and experience of our students, it's about creating in them the autonomy to understand what they're using today, what they're learning today. They're going to eventually need it in their future. And so I'm not saying to knock the core classes. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it did show me that students, we have to build upon what they're learning. How can we take what they're learning and build it into the careers? And so what our school is trying to do, we're trying to do cross-curricular projects. So, the culinary students is working with the food science classes, or the hospitality students are working with the social studies. So how do we build that into linked learning so that the students can scale that and build upon their knowledge and expertise when they graduate and be able to present that as part of their career base?
I really appreciate the acknowledgement of that cross-functionality and how you're integrating that into kind of your educational environment, because these things aren't isolated. They do interact, and there are various kind of components to thread into it. And the alignment to CTE or other educational programs is so critical for that kind of conceptual translation. Absolutely. Valerie, what are your thoughts on this? Why is it important to prioritize scaling work-based learning? And I am also going to mention, you work with Chicago Public Schools. Scale is the name of the game. So tell us a little bit about how you prioritize scaling this and why.
Yeah, so really the importance of scaling work-based learning, and I think Kara really hit it on the head, is work-based learning is just so much more than exposing students. It's also helping with their self-awareness and really helping with, where do I see myself in this world of work, and where do I fit in? What are my skills? What are my interests? What are my values? And how does that apply to work? And so in scaling work-based learning, it's important because we want to be able to expose our students to as many opportunities, resources, industries, so that they can make an informed decision on where they fit. And so prioritizing it is definitely something that we are trying to do here at Chicago Public Schools, is expanding work-based learning outside of CTE programming, so that all of our students graduate with at least one work-based learning experience, so that they can make informed decisions. And so really that is the reason, is making informed decisions and understanding themselves and being self-aware and where they fit in this world of work.
Absolutely. Helping to create that agency, so
Absolutely.
that our young people are making the decisions that are right for them.
Exactly.
Aligned to values, interests, skills, opportunities, economic mobility, and future prospects, right? All of those kind of factors, and giving them the agency to and opportunities and experiences to be able to do that.
That's exactly right. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so that's really what we're trying to do in work-based learning, is expose students to as many opportunities and possibilities.
Absolutely. And Valerie, I also want to mention, you kind of slipped this in, but you said that you were expanding beyond CTE, and that your hope, your goal as a district is that every student graduates with an experience like this. Can you tell us a little bit more about guidelines that your district has for establishing those work-based learning experiences to ensure that you can kind of scale, that you have that replicability, that the quality is there, so that every student in your district does get a quality work-based learning experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So the work-based learning team at Chicago Public Schools, I like to describe us as a small but mighty team. We're we're the second largest school district, and so being able to provide direct service and work-based learning opportunities to all of our schools is definitely a challenge. The way that we are doing that, though, is with the help of a work-based learning toolkit that we've implemented at Chicago Public Schools as a resource and guide for our work-based learning coordinators at the school level to be able to create high quality and impactful programs. It is a step-by-step resource, and we can't take 100% credit in it. It's something that we collaborated with the state of New York on. And so this toolkit essentially provides a step-by-step guide on how to create work-based learning experiences for students. And it ranges from a guest speaking opportunity and a career day to a summer internship and apprenticeship. It provides resources like checklists and how to engage partners, pre and post surveys, day of activities. And it creates these checklists not only for the WBL coordinators, but also the partners, the teachers, the students. And so that all parties involved can have a guideline of how to be creating these types of experiences in a high quality, impactful way. And so as a team, I directly support right now our CTE business and IT teachers. But we do have other staff who are dedicated to our student population outside of CTE and providing those resources and support to those teachers in those schools and administrators. I'd say the work-based learning toolkit has been our biggest resource in scaling work-based learning, so that the district is working in a very similar way in creating these experiences. And our team is supporting those efforts by providing guidance, providing partners. I'd say one of the biggest challenges our schools have is, we can create these opportunities, but how do we find the people to fill them? And so really that is, I like to say my favorite part of work-based learning is partner engagement and really engaging our Chicago business community to step forward and provide and share their experiences of industry certifications and work with our students. And so, yeah, I'd say from a Chicago Public School perspective, the work-based learning toolkit has been very instrumental in helping us scale work-based learning outside of CTE and ensuring that even outside CTE, it's still high quality, impactful, and exposing our students to opportunities that are available to them.
Love that. So I want to highlight a couple of things there that you pulled out. So one, you talked about like that continuum, right? So that it's not just one type of experience, but there's different access points from a lighter touch to a more intensive internship or apprenticeship type experience.
Right.
So I really love kind of the full spectrum of what you're looking at. And then I also just wanted to highlight that like within that toolkit, which we dropped into chat, so I hope everybody checks it out and uses it, is reducing the barriers to entry for other people within your network to participate, whether that be other educators and administrators within the school or business partners, but really creating the kind of framework for what quality looks like so that everybody doesn't have to figure it out on their own, but they have that kind of easier access point, easier path to being able to actually execute and create these experiences and create those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And the toolkit has done that. I'd also say our work-based learning continuum, like you just mentioned, has been very helpful in learning how to expose students to these types of opportunities. So we essentially have 3 stages of work-based learning that we work through. The first being career awareness. And so exposing students to what types of opportunities careers out there through guest speaking and career days. And that's usually done at the freshman, sophomore level. Their junior level, they're engaging more in career exploration. And so there's more interaction with professionals there through either job shadowing, site visits, informational interviews, and then our summer internship program leading into their senior year. And then that senior year is where we then jump to the career development stage, where they're working at these companies alongside these professionals in those industries, developing those skills and certifications through either a in-school, or what we like to call a co-op program, or an apprenticeship program.
It's wonderful. We're about halfway through, a little over halfway through, so I'm gonna pause for some questions here in just a moment. But Haley, do you have anything to add to that? Anything that we haven't kind of tackled with guidelines and how you establish work-based learning experiences at your district?
Well, for us, and I was just, if you see me looking, I'm writing some notes here. Just, it's so much I could gain from both Kara and Valerie. It's just mind blowing. But for us, it's really about establishing those relationships with the stakeholders and partners. That's huge for us, because what Valerie was saying was the co-op opportunities, the apprenticeship opportunities. Well, how do we start those conversations, you know? And so with our district, we do our best with our partnership engagement, as well as our procurement department, where we actually reach out and recruit businesses to work with our district and provide opportunities for our students to work. For me, I feel like it's important to start those conversations and to getting those students involved in the career opportunities way before they become seniors. So, you know, having guest speakers like Valerie was saying, in the 9th grade year, 10th grade year, maybe take them on a field trip to these different industries, 11th grade year, and see how we're building upon. So when they're, like Valerie was saying, in the 12th grade year, they have an idea, the students have an idea as to which career path that they're looking to choose from. And so I have to give a huge shout out to our district, because they're doing everything they possibly can to present these opportunities for our students, starting in the freshman year and even going into middle school and elementary schools, and just being able to build that interest in the students early so they have an idea what they want to do when they graduate.
Thank you, Haley. All right, let's take a quick pause here and see if we have any questions. I saw some coming through about insurance. Jason, do you have anything kind of queued up for us that we could address now?
Yeah, I think, yeah, 2 questions about insurance in general. Question is, are challenges to get to school to approve the insurance aspect of WB opportunities? Any suggestions on that? And then specifically as it relates to the Chicago toolkit, is insurance addressed in there as well?
So does anybody have experience kind of on the insurance side? Val, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so the way that we handle the liability insurance of sending off our students to companies, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest concern is our companies sometimes are a little reluctant in hosting our students, because they're like, well, what happens if they get hurt? Whose responsibility is that? And so we combat that by hiring our students as Chicago Public School employees, so that they are then covered under our liability insurance. And so our students are paid as Chicago Public School employees at their internship sites. And because of that, and because of being hired, they then fall under our insurance coverage. So that's how we have dealt with that issue at CPS. Unfortunately, that's not something that we discuss or share in the toolkit, but more of like an individual conversation that we have with partners at the table once that concern is raised.
So question, so you're paying their salary while they go out in town to work?
That's correct.
Okay.
And so Chicago right now has I'm sure a lot of you seen on the news that we had an election yesterday for a new mayor. And with that comes a lot of changes every 4 years. But workforce development, work-based learning is a hot topic, an important initiative right now in the city of Chicago, and one backed by the mayor's office. We have an organization called One Summer Chicago that funds all of our work-based learning summer programming. And so through a grant through One Summer Chicago and the mayor's office, we are being given the funds to pay our students. So then we then hire them as Chicago Public School employees and pay them through that grant.
Thank you, Valerie. And how many students do you hire each year?
This year we received funding for 1,000 students over the summer. Our numbers are low after COVID, but they're going back up. And I'd say last year we hired approximately 500 summer interns.
Wonderful. And I saw in chat someone mentioned California. I was actually just at a conference in California, Educating for Careers, and San Jose is doing something similar where the city itself acts as the employer for students and is creating kind of a similar work-based learning continuum and experience within the community also. All right. I think I saw one more question from Amy Lucan. Is that right?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys, when you're going into establishing relationships with the different businesses in your communities, do you have a process or first of all, in getting them interested and in devoting time to interacting with education? And then what if they're nervous about it? Like, you convince them and then maybe train them a little bit on the different ways that they can do it, and maybe even have a like a database of those businesses. So I was wondering about that.
Amy,
Thanks.
I am so incredibly happy that you queued that question up. So I am ready for us to move into talking about business partners. That seems like a great place for us to go with the last 10-ish minutes here. So Kara, I'd actually love if you could address this first and tell us a bit about what processes you've put into place to effectively engage those business partners at scale, right? Because as we know, it can be incredibly difficult to kind of move beyond just the partnerships and relationships we have. So tell us a little bit more about what those processes are, and maybe some of the best practices or challenges or kind of tips and tools you have for our audience on what it takes to do that successfully.
All right. So to begin, I guess I'll go with the first half of the question. Just how do you approach these businesses? How do you get them involved? And the answer is it can come in a very different set of ways. It's various. For us and for me as a career readiness coordinator, we would always approach the businesses in the area with, you know, just a very blanket idea. We are growing your next generation workforce. You have employees who are, I hate saying this word, but they're aging out. They're retiring. They're looking to retire. The baby boomers are going out, and there is a gap. There is a gap from, you know, my age group, the 36 to 40, early 40-year-olds. We went to college. We were pushed college. And there's a gap there where we don't have the skills to go into some of these jobs. So you have to approach these businesses with, let me help you, but you help me in return. So we are going to build the pipeline, but I can't build the pipeline on my own. I don't know what you need. But you also can't build the pipeline without me, because I have a whole building full of students who need to know about this world of work. And so that's how we initially approach it. And then we bring the businesses in. So we did pick, I say we as it was previously. So we would pick a fall time and a time in the spring, and we would pick a date. And then we would have just kind of a very open business partnership meeting, an open forum, if you would, where we would have multiple times throughout the day. Usually we would do one in the morning and one in the evening to just catch those people. Sometimes it's easier for them to swing in before they head to work, grab a bite, for breakfast, grab a coffee, listen to an hour spiel, and then head to work. Sometimes it's easier to swing in on your way home, hear the same thing with a little bit of an appetizer, and then go home for dinner. But in those meetings, we kind of set out guidelines for the year. But the fall meeting, sometimes in the spring meeting, we would have a projection on what next year would look like. Here are all of the events that you could be a part of. Come to a career fair, come to a job fair, be a speaker to one of our programs, come in and give a demonstration, be a host for some job shadows, or be a host for a field trip. Show a group of students what you do in your business. And then we would kind of just give them a calendar of events that they could kind of pick and choose or be a part of. And then if they showed interest in wanting to mentor students, we would invite them back for kind of a mini training. Here's what it means to be a mentor for one of our students. These are some of the things that we need you to do. Here are some of the things that our students need to do as an employee of yours. And then we would give them, a quick tutorial on how to interact with students, what the onboarding process is, what can we do to help you, how can you help us. So we would invite them in, and then very recently we started to just give tours. We were a career and technical center, so we had lots of program labs. We would bring businesses in groups at a time and just tour the programs, see the labs, watch the students in action, and see what they were doing, just to spark that interest. So those are just a couple of different ways that we kind of tried to engage business partners and expand that partnership. And then the last question is, yes, we had a database. It was not a very good one. It is a great one now. But it was just very general information on what business, some programs or students that might be of interest to them, that they might want to pluck from, a contact name, an email, and a phone number.
I want to highlight a couple kind of change management tactics that you used within that as well, so that we can bridge the conceptual to the specifics of what you were discussing, Kara. So you talked a bit about kind of the communication tactics you used. So helping them to understand what options were available. So providing that menu of options, expectations and guidelines for what the experiences and relationship would look like, the benefit to them, what it would look like for the business partner. So not just how it would actually assist them, because we all need to know what's in it for us. It's just a really important part of human nature. And so while we love the concept of people being philanthropic and doing it for the kids, we also really need to identify for our business partners, what's the ROI? So what is the benefit to this experience for them? How does it improve their business, their talent pool? And then you help them to feel it, which is another really important part of change management. We can't just tell these things to people. They need to actually experience it. So the tours of seeing students working, right, helps them to actually feel what it's like to be a part of that. Awesome. All right, I'm going to have each of us talk through this, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. Haley, what is your experience with this? What do you think is really important for our audience to know about tactics, strategies, approaches to developing those successful business partnerships and managing them at scale?
Well, it's anytime that you're getting ready to initiate anything, you always need to make sure you have systems in place. It's not just one thing to establish relationships. Well, what do you do to maintain them? So for any district, for any school that is willing, that is looking to build partnerships with stakeholders, business partners, community leaders, it's about engaging in conversation. It's not just about sending an invite and say, hey, come on in, you be a guest speaker for such and such event. how do you capitalize on those conversations? How do you just kind of like what Kara was saying, like how to help us help you in this instance. So and then also too, catering to what their needs are as a business. So if the business is up and running and they're saying, well, you know what, we really are trying to improve our workforce, our work base, and we're looking for some entry-level positions. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Well, we have opportunities for students to be able to help your business in that instance. So if we're able to do that, then can we continue this relationship to further opportunities that you can help our school or our district, but at the same time, us help you in the same venture. So I'm a big proponent of relationship building, and I've seen it work, and networking is definitely a big factor in it. And what, Kara was saying about establishing those conversations, opening those conversations up, but then managing that through a database, through online system, anything that will keep records, keep conversations, not necessarily conversations, but keeping how often are they visiting? How often are they available to visit schools and things like that? How do we keep track of that so that we can, in some form or fashion, show them that we appreciate your involvement, we appreciate your dedication, and at the same time, what can we do to help build this into something even greater?
So Haley and Kara, you've both mentioned kind of the importance of having a centralized database that everybody can access, where you're tracking all of this information so that you do have that core center of truth that lots of people can be referring to and seeing the information that's available about those experiences, about those opportunities, about what it was like to work with this partner, what they're available for, what they're interested in. Valerie, can you kind of finish off this question for us of what you think is really important for our audience to know and to understand about how we should be scaling those business partnerships?
Sure. Yeah. So what's been really helpful for us in engaging the Chicago business community is this year we launched a work-based learning partner council. This council is an opportunity for us to bring interested folks to the table who want to learn how to engage students in work-based learning. We've created kind of a partner life cycle that mirrors very similar to the work-based learning continuum, where students are first exposed to guest speaking opportunities, and then, site visits, and then internships, and then apprenticeships. But we were noticing as students were walking into their summer internships, not really having a strong understanding of the company, the industry that they were about to work for 6 weeks. We decided that it was best if we expose them to those companies earlier in the school year through first guest speaking opportunities. Once the guest speaker has come to the class and done for example, we work with McDonald's global headquarters here at Chicago. So we are McDonald's. This is who we are from a corporate global perspective. Then inviting the students as that second touch point to McDonald's corporate headquarters, where they get to get a tour of the company, a career panel of the different departments within the organization, and learn more about the company. And then the third touch point being the summer internship program. So now they've had 2 touch points with this company. They understand who McDonald's is outside of a franchise perspective. They understand the different roles within McDonald's and what it takes at the back of the house operations to get McDonald's running globally. And then at that site visit, they also get a small overview of what the summer internship opportunity would look like, what skills they need, and how they can apply. So then when they're walking into that summer internship, they're just better informed, they're more comfortable, and they probably can see a familiar face that, has either visited them at the class or they seen when they were on their site visit. So creating that volunteer life cycle not only helps our students be better prepared for their summer internships, but it also keeps our partners engaged throughout the school year. There were so many times where our partners would come in for a guest speaking opportunity. We wouldn't hear from them again. And so keeping them on this life cycle with the same class really helped in keeping them engaged throughout the year. The Partner Council has really been beneficial in as a space to like not only share what opportunities we come up, it's guest speakers month, or we have job shadow and site visit month coming up, but also it's a space for our partners to meet other professionals within their industry and to share best practices and learn how they're engaging students. I saw one of the questions in the chat is like, what kind of job descriptions or how are you engaging these students? And so we bring our partners to the table who have been doing this year after year and have perfected their summer internship programs to share best practices of how they're engaging students so that they can build the confidence of our newer partners who are coming to the table on how to engage students. It's also been a way for us to recruit new partners. So we invite our partners and say, please bring a new partner to this meeting who would like to work with Chicago Public Schools and learn how to engage with our students. And so we hold 4 meetings a year, and we hold them at a school, because as much as they want to hear from us and share best practices, what really brings our partners to life, and I'm sure many of you have seen, is engaging with students. And so we like to bring them to the school level so that they can tour the school, they can tour the CTE department, learn what students are learning, and then that alone gives them ideas on, oh, wow, okay, I didn't know that they were learning this in their curriculum, and I can directly tie this piece of the curriculum to the job to expand on that learning. And so the Work-Based Learning Council has been really, really beneficial and helpful in not only partner engagement, but sharing of best practices, scaling work-based learning, and then also providing us as work-based learning coordinators, just keeping us abreast of like industry trends and hiring trends that we wouldn't be aware of unless we were engaging with partners in this way.
That feels like a really great feedback loop for everybody so that you are able to make all of those threads and the continuity between each of those different experiences, while setting really clear expectations about it, what it's going to look like, and then ultimately amplifying, right? Like you talked about how that advisory council, that group then is able to recruit others and share best practices. And so ultimately you're amplifying the work overall by bringing these folks together to be able to support each other also.
That's absolutely right. It also, like our data. So we use Salesforce to track all of our partners, and Salesforce has been beneficial in helping us identify like where are our gaps. And one of our gaps, for example, is we have a CTE game programming pathway. There's not a lot of game programming companies in Chicago. A lot of them are on the East Coast. And so having the WBL Advisory Council and inviting our game programming companies that are here in Chicago and helping and asking them and being very intentional in saying, we have a gap, and game programming is one of our highly sought after pathways, but we lack in the exposure to the professional world in gaming. How do we do a better job in exposing students in Chicago to that? When a lot of these professionals are on the East Coast. And so that's one of the ways that our partners help through these councils, is by bringing these folks to the table and just letting them know we have a gap here. How can you help us fill that?
That's wonderful. That was a really great salient example as well. I am so sorry to let you all know we are at time. It always goes so very quickly, our different sessions. So thank you all so very much for being here today and being with us today. If you did not have a chance to have your question answered, it looks like our panelists are putting their email addresses in the chat. If you'd like to reach out to them directly, please feel free to reach out to us at Transeo or eDynamic. We'd be happy to connect you with anybody. And I saw a lot of questions coming through and responses. So thank you, audience, for being so engaged. Our next webinar in this series will be on March 22nd. We hope to see you all there as we continue this conversation about how to create optimized, scaled, work-based learning and career and technical education experiences for youth. So thank you all for your time. We hope to see you at the next session. We hope to stay engaged with you and to continue amplifying these practices. We hope you have an excellent day and see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Enjoyed this. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. Mhm.
Thank you so much, panelists.